Thank you for tuning in to Stampscaping 101. This is a fairly quick scene to do that utilizes imagery in a very simple fashion, but hopefully it looks relatively complex in terms of the end result. But on this one right here, we use Cloud Cumulus and the Milky Way, in case you want to do a little stamp along here. And I've gotten a nice varied impression of the Cloud Cumulus in different shades of violet by utilizing a reinker blue ink and just a pink marker. Let me see, I can find it here. In terms of this, I do a little scribbling on here. If you choose to watch the video, you'll see how I did it. I just kind of blotched on, you know, a little bit of a reinker fluid on there, and it kind of gave me a nice impression in terms of a varied look to the stamp. And then just a little bit of tone around the outside edges and some Versafine black for my two foreground images. This is one stamp right here, and that leaf stamp is stamped 3 times in the Versafine, so that Versafine is a really fantastic ink for you know, some really stark black images. And if you ever use that, it's pigment ink, so the dye-based inks are kind of, you know, staining your card, where the pigment ink is just really sitting on the surface. So don't stamp out your Versafine, especially if you're doing it on glossy cardstock, and then try to tone over the top of it. Save these Versafine impressions for the you know, the last things you do on a scene. For the most part, you know, there might be some kind of thing you can do with some spray sealants, then go over it with, you know, alcohol pens or something like that. I don't know, but I don't know. For the most part, I wait till the end. So a lot of gel pens in here in terms of the usage of some glitter gel pens, white paint pen, and a metallic, I think, that I used in there, and just for some subtle little effects with some, you know, kind of little twinkly star types of looks in here. So, like I said, pretty quick and easy scene, but which is all I had time for today. But I wanted to play around with the imagery again, and especially these wolves down here, and just see what I come up with. So, yeah. Anyway. Hope you enjoyed the scene, hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for tuning into the channel as always. Okay, I'm going to see if I can come up with a really kind of a fast, easy composition here. Just have a little bit of time today to work on this, and I'm going to try something a little bit different too, just as an kind of an experiment. I have my Milky Way stamp right here, and I'm going to take just a pink brush marker and run that over some of the stamp, like so. And then I have some reinker fluid here just with some blue, and I'll sop that up like so. Okay, and let's try to tap this around on here. I won't tap it around everywhere, but I'll see how this combines with some of that pink, and, you know, where it overlaps some of it. And in other areas maybe it'll just be the pure blue, and some other areas it'll be more of a violet, I take it. I don't know. We'll see how it comes out. It might be interesting to even kind of like spray mist this. I don't know where my bottle is, but I don't have it right here on me, but oh, look at, I kind of splattered some of that just by doing some kind of tapping here, so I don't know. We're going for a little bit of variation, to say the least, so kind of add it like about like so. Something like this. I don't know, I'm kind of doing it in a little bit of an angle as well. You can do it really in any configuration you want. Oh, okay, looks pretty good. It's a little bit of a pink, and then a lot of blue, right? Okay, so that looked pretty good. So let's try that again. You know, little scribbles here and there. I kind of run this like this just to wipe off the ink that's on here. And it's really fine. It's, I don't know, it's not really polluted, you know, in terms of having blue ink all over my, you know, brush marker tip. This, look at this pen. This pen's probably 20 years old. I always say that, you know, but you know, my main point about, you know, a lot of things is, you know, you can utilize a lot of the media that you happen to have. Now, if I didn't have like a brush marker pen and I had some sort of pink pad, you can just kind of tap it around on here. You know, you can make do. You know, this is a dye-based ink, so any kind of dye-based ink, you can use distress inks, mementos, you have Stampin' Up inks or something like that. If you have re-inkers in pink, then you can put a little re-inker fluid on here, put a re-inker on a, you know, any type of sponge, you know, something like the cosmetic sponge, and just kind of dab it around. And I've drawn a lot of my sky imagery for, you know, ease of use and for variation, so you can kind of really play around with them. Okay, now this one right here, I don't want to mask off, and you don't want to lay these down perfectly edge to edge like they're bricks or something like that you're stacking. So this right here, I'll probably overlap like that entire bit like that, you know, and just come into it. Okay. There is this little kind of like this little Milky Way, you know, streak here, so you might want to kind of configure, you know, another area like this. So I'll come into it like, oh, let me see, I want to get a lot of use out of this one, so maybe I'll come in like this. I'll have a little bit of a V like that, maybe that, not that. Okay. All right, so let's just do something like this. Now I'm stamping most of this off the paper, so that's why I kind of wanted to really fill in a little bit more. But see that right there? There's no line, you know, between the two of them because I've overlapped enough. Now I don't want to overlap 90% probably or something like that, but you know, I don't know, 25% or something like that. See, I've kind of changed the angle a little bit too. I don't need to go in like this and overlap perfectly like that. You know, having a little bit of an angle, look at that. That'll really overlap nicely. Okay, now this one, see if I'm just stamping this portion right up in here, like that. Then I just need to color this bottom portion, so a little bit of that. You can't tell me that it's hard to do, you know. And nice and easy. I don't know. I don't have too much ink. Maybe I do have a lot of ink on there, I'm not really sure. Okay, so I'm just going to match that up like that, going into here. So I'm overlapping about like this much right here. Okay, by going in like that. Okay, so here's where it kind of matches up, and go even further. Farther? I don't know. Okay, see that? How it kind of merges right into that. And then we have this little area out here. We'll just be using a little bit, so let's take a... Alright, I need a little bit more blue ink here. A couple little drops of it right in here, and a little squiggle of some pink. A little blotchy kind of... I don't know, it's not really random, but varied, I guess, you know, in terms of my usage that goes. Go like this or something like that. Okay, so I have this area kind of filled up right there. You know, I'm leaving this area down here because I have plans for that. You could put more, you know, Milky Way in there if you want to, but I think for a little bit of variation I'm going to put this cloud in here. Alright, so what color to do the cloud? We can go with some sort of violet. I'm recommending something as dark or darker than this background right here. Now, I think I will use, you can use blue too, but I think I have a pretty good color for that in terms of my Marvy. I don't know if it's dark enough, but let's see. Oh, this one's the number 8 violet, so it's really quite dark. I'm looking for my pale violet. I think my pale violet, the pad kind of, finally had it and disintegrated, so. Okay, let's just go with this one right here. Cloud Cumulus. It's another rectangle image, right? So what you do is you just come up in here. Now see, I'm probably going to go down into my Milky Way about like that much. Okay? So again, I'm not trying to just match this up edge to edge. If you match it up edge to edge, you can really tell where one image ends and the other one begins. But the way these designs have been designed and drawn, is that so when you overlap things, quite a bit, you don't have to do that, careful positioning. When I'm using this cloud, watch the video on this cloud usage too. It's in the stamp module. If you look at Cloud Cumulus, there's a bunch of videos on how to use this and what to avoid too. But what I do mention is what I'm mentioning here is just don't be so, perfect about your placement of it, and to kind of use center pressuring of it, press right in the middle of it. So if you're using an acrylic block, again, don't rock it like this, otherwise you're going to get these edges more kind of pronounced. Okay, so we have that cloud coming up in that way. If you want to go for a little bit of variation, I do have this little area up here that I didn't fill in with that Milky Way. If I did, I could do this too, but you can come up with this kind of cloud in this area too, and have, some extra kind of cloud formations. Kind of gives it a little bit more of a dreamy look, doesn't it? And, I mean, I haven't even started coloring this yet, so that'll really kind of enhance it a little bit more too. Alright, so we have that going on in there. Now, let's go and add a little bit more tone to this, and to bring out certain stars a little bit more, make it a little bit more mellow in terms of the imagery, and it'll kind of define it a little bit more. Let's go with the Memento Summer Sky. Let me see what I have here. I don't think I have a lot of violet tones in my Memento pads. Here's a plum, which isn't exactly this hue in here, but you can mix and match, Alright, I don't know what I had on here before, if that's clean or not, but let's just go with it. Alright, some stars in here I might want to, I might want to remain kind of nice and light, so I'm not going to tone all of them out. Now, the summer sky right here, this light blue is a really great kind of initial blue to use. It's very, Memento pads are real kind of thick and, I don't know, they're kind of slippery because they are thickings, and they work really great on both matte or glossy cardstock. I'm going to do some things on matte cardstock here with just using some copy papers and stuff like that, and I'm going to use just cosmetic sponges, just so people can, people that don't have access or something like that can see that these things can be done, and it'll really, if you do use that in that method, it can really improve your technique. I'm using it on glossy cardstock, which is really easy to use. I've even done this technique on inkjet papers, inkjet glossy, and that one's really difficult. In terms of the time, because the inkjet papers really grab that ink really fast, and they really dry fast. It's just like, I think they're just meant to, the home inkjet printer, they don't want, when you run a print, they don't want it to be soaking wet for hours and hours and hours, so it dries really fast. Okay, now see what I'm doing here is I'm kind of going into my shadow areas on my clouds, and I'm reiterating that idea of that shade with some additional tone, but using color. I do the shading with dots on my stamps, so they inherently have some light and darks in them, but it's kind of nice to go and reiterate those types of shading conventions using your colors. So if this was a sunset scene, I'd be shading with my warmer tones and those shadows. Sometimes the shadows have the warmest tones of a given composition. Shadows aren't always, they don't always have to be cool tones. They could be warm tones. All right, but if you want, some of these areas to be nice and light like that, and to have some variation, then just don't touch them. Just leave them as is. Okay, here's the Sweet Plum. It's not really related to this color scheme. It has that red in there, but we'll test it out and see. It's kind of more of a rusty tone, so I don't know. I think it looks okay. Maybe it's good. Kind of break out of my, certain color conventions that I tend to use a lot. This one I would probably go for more of a pinkish violet tone, but this Sweet Plum looks pretty good. It's a little bit more, I wouldn't say earthy, but kind of. I don't know, it has some color in it that's not perfectly related to this color scheme that I'm working in. Again, if you want certain areas to remain nice and light, then just don't tone them out, meaning, some of these stars in here and some of these areas up in my clouds. Okay? How about a Bahama blue? Let's get medium tone blue. See, I'm kind of working with my violets, right? But violets come from kind of the, reddish tones and blue mixed together, so I'm using my reds and blues. Going over some of that plum here. It's kind of nice. It's kind of giving, the more I put down here, kind of the more, I don't know, it's like a kind of more of a magical feel coming about. We get some of these stars that are starting to come out a little bit more from the background. Coming out more from the background. See, I'm kind of subduing, or I can't think of the word, but I'm going over some of these stars so that they're not as apparent because the contrast isn't there, than having, from having a white star amidst, a darker background. So kind of subduing it with the use of value like that. But by doing so, the areas, the stars that do remain white stand out even more. They're more twinkly, aren't they? So, you're sacrificing some, but you're really enhancing the overall. All right, that's good for that blue. Let's see. Okay, here's a Prussian blue. This is the Marvy Prussian blue. It gets very dark, okay, so kind of be careful. If you're using Prussian blue, it's very, very dark, and it penetrates to whatever paper you're working with, no matter how glossy it. The viscosity or something is such that it really gets on that paper. Some of the other colors, they kind of, you're moving it, moving it, moving it. It doesn't get too dark too fast because it's kind of sitting on the surface a lot longer, especially if you have those other tones already laid down. But this Prussian blue seems to go right through those other colors that you've laid down, even if they were very, very thick and heavily applied. The Prussian blue really gets in there. All right, so kind of getting there. creating that mystical, magical type of look, hopefully. Okay, this is black here. Black is getting pretty dark. It doesn't penetrate as fast as that Prussian, but it does get pretty dark, so see this? I'm kind of just staying in this area. I'm not just staying like this and tapping, 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 and then getting this oval shot, you know, right up here. See this? I'm kind of tapping it around, and see how I'm kind of moving it? I'm not moving it like this, you know, with a 1/4 inch in between. I'm just kind of this tapping motion. And I'm kind of spreading out this ink a little bit. Kind of going for the 4 corners. And the 4 corners, if you make your corners or some area within your scene 1 step darker, by contrast, the lighter objects or areas will seem 1 step lighter. Okay? And this is a nice framing device by adding these darker corners like this. All right. Okay, now I have these wolves running down here. And I think I'm just going to have them right down here at the base. I know you're thinking, this is a sky scene, but I'm just saying that this is a horizon down there. I'm going for this kind of magical quality to this composition, so having these kind of wild, you know, this imagery of the wild down here might be kind of fun. I don't know, I might hold it up against that and think, maybe not, but I think this is what I want to do. I want them right down at the base. Maybe, I don't know. One of them I think will be kind of off the paper. Like so. Okay, I want these guys nice and dark. So, Versafine. Black. Versafine black, kind of detailed pigment ink, okay? Let's see, let me take pad to stamp as opposed to stamp to pad. Okay. Okay, look at those guys. Nice and dramatic. I'll peel these. I'll peel them off right now. And get ink on my fingers. No matter. Now those wolves are going to be kind of wet for a little while. I want them nice and saturated and juicy. I'll have to think of some kind of quote up here, a quote stamp maybe. But okay. All right. Now my white pens, you can see that all of my ink has been used up, which is a good sign. But let me see if I still have any left. Okay, this one seems to have a little bit left. Got to be careful around these guys. Let me flip this up this way, so I can access this area in here a little bit more. Okay, so these little stars like this. And I can come into this area and kind of reintroduce that shape and thus give, I'm talking about the shape of a little star, little dot back into these areas. So we have some very light stars and we have some, you know, kind of more subdued ones, so it kind of layers it. You know, there's some blue stars over here and some violet ones that kind of recede in the background a little bit more. Same thing over here. These little dots can really kind of infuse kind of an element of visual interest into the you know, these specific areas within a composition, especially if it has been kind of toned out with the use of color. It adds this crisp element back into those areas. Okay. Now, let's try to get... well, I was going to say a little bit more interesting. Let me use some of my Sharpie paint pen here. This one's the extra fine tip point. And this one's just called blue. I don't know. I was looking for a color on there. I thought it might be sky blue or something like this. It's a pastel blue. You have to get that little piston going in there, you know, to shake up the paint. And we'll use blue. We'll use the color from our color scheme, right? And add a few stars, kind of cluster them together here and there, kind of add a bit of a kind of a random, I don't know about, is nature sky random? It's varied, I guess, you know. Everyone always kind of positions all these little dots perfectly, I don't know, it's like 1/8 of an inch apart from each other in perfect clusters, and there's kind of patterning to that, but I think it's a little bit more natural looking if it's a little slightly more varied. So a little dot out here, 2 or 3 dots here. Okay. So right there. It's a really, it's kind of giving it a nice rich surface. You can see these are the gel pen dots out this way. The stamp itself has a lot of variation and texture in it, but going into it and reiterating it with, you know, some of our media that we have out there is really fun. Let's see if I have a metallic or glitter violet, which I'm sure I do in my my gigantic Shuttle Art gel pen set here. Okay, this one's kind of this glitter gel pen in violet. There was 180 colors with 180 refills on this gel pen set, all for the gigantic price of, what was it, $25 or something like that. Even if it's just 180, I mean the refills are just kind of like the I don't know, like all the frosting, you know. I would have been fine with 180 colors, but you know, these things come with, I don't know if I'm going to ever use so much of these pens, because they're kind of more for the adult coloring book market, you know, where you're doing a lot of coloring with the gel pens. I just don't do that. They're kind of more like detailed embellishments, you know, so I don't know if I'll ever get to the refills or not. Maybe on the white or something, but I don't know. Purple glitter? I doubt it. But this glitter, look, it's looking pretty good. I'll hold it up to the light. I'm sure you can't see a thing on the camera right now, but okay, so we have, okay, so you can't really see that glitter too much, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it here either. As I do this, see that glare. Okay, so there's some right like right around in here. See those darker dots right there? Those ones are the glitter. You can kind of see it a little bit. I can see it here looking at it. It's not like a metallic though, so it's a little bit more subtle, okay? Now let me see if I can find a metallic one, or just a lighter hue of some of that glitter. There's this set here came with the glitter pens, the pastels, I guess they call them just regular, you know, just regular colors. The multicolored ones, I guess, where you're drawing and, you know, it just keeps changing colors on you. But, okay, this pink or violet looks really good. I'll put it into an area that's approximately the same hue as this pen right here, which is this kind of more pinkish area. These are those subtle little things that, you know, someone was, you know, that was a recipient of your card, if you had, you know, these types of little touches on there. And hopefully they would really appreciate your card and kind of observe it. You know, these are the types of things that would be stand out. But all right, I have a big cluster of it down there. Yeah, I just when I do it, that glare doesn't stand out as much as like a metallic would, but see, it's like right in here. This one's all over in here. Okay, I don't think I can show it too much on this. At least I can't see it on my lens right here too much, but it is there. All right, let me try. What is this? This is like a gold metallic. Let me try that one. Kind of something like gold and, you know, purple and gold, that, you know, color combination. It's a lot of like sporting teams, you know, often have that. Purple and gold. Kind of a royal type of look. Use something like that. Okay. So, he has something like that going on. Alright, now I think some additional touches up here might be fun. Okay, let's add on a little bit of one of my favorite things to do, which is Colorbox white pigment ink with my scene here. Let's keep this area zoomed in a little bit. Try to remember to keep it all within the frame of view, field of view. Pigment ink on here, but I'm taking a lot of it off, and in doing so I'm kind of smashing the tip of this a little bit. I can loosen it up a little bit too. Use the true cotton. Alright, now let's take a look at this little area right here where light meets dark, okay? See that? How that kind of softened that cloud. Right there, it looks more misty and light, doesn't it? Is that right there? Alright, here, let's move in a little bit more. See that kind of haze right there? Kind of looks more like a cloud, though, doesn't it? It's kind of glowing in the starlight. When you first start doing this, you're going to put on too much. And just dab it away with your finger a little bit, okay? Let's look at this bank of clouds right here, this area right in here, okay? Where dark meets light. I kind of start in the lighter area, then I kind of work it into my darker area. And just a little bit too. I just use light touches. What happens is you're going to go like this, 1, 2, 3, and not see anything, and then you're going to press harder, and that's going to leave a big blotch. But then just kind of wipe it away, and it'll come right off, you know? But that's what happens, usually. People don't see anything, but see, it's only through... Now let me show you over here, okay? I'll show you how many taps it takes. See, one tap's nothing, right? You can't see anything. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You know, 10 and plus, and then you get that kind of mistier look to it. And it's kind of softer. Don't put this everywhere, you know. If you put it everywhere, unless it's supposed to be just this like super foggy scene, you know. I kind of use it a little bit more sparingly in my darker areas, okay? But see this area down here, if you want to put some down here, you can too, and it kind of gives it that softer, reflected light look, you know, you're seeing that moisture is in that area, and, you know, with the cloud, and that vapor is illuminating with the, you know, when being hit by the light. In this case, it's supposed to be starlight. I don't know if you'd get, you know, clouds glowing that light, you know, in starlight, but, you know, these are scenes that we're doing. It doesn't have to represent something, you know, too literal. It's more fantasy. Okay, all right. Now, so we have these clouds coming from above, too, like right in here. And pigment ink does dry darker, so you can go a little bit lighter than what, you know, you think looks ideal. And then when it dries, it won't be as apparent, but see that little glow down there? See how it's nice and soft? Let's add a little bit more into this area. Now these clouds over here are a little bit darker anyway, so I'm not going to put as much of this because we're saying that light isn't hitting it as strongly, so you wouldn't get that vapor kind of illuminating. I say that in kind of an analytical way, but just it looks strange to have all this kind of, you know, like this over here. It stands out too much, doesn't it? Because it's not where light meets dark. So we're just kind of making something that's already light a little bit lighter. Okay, now see some of these star areas in here, we can kind of make some of these areas, ooh, it's a little bit too much. I can make some of these stars kind of glow. I need to blot off some of this. I just re-inked it. Okay, so some of these stars in here can be kind of glowing a little bit more with the use of some very thin layer of pigment ink. It's a really bright one right here. Let's go over this one. Alright, let's take a look here. Alright. It seems like a perfect place for a quote up here, too. I don't know. I might put some leaves. I was thinking about some overhanging leaves in here, too. You know, just kind of frame this off. Yeah, let's do that. Let's take my tack and peel. By the way, the tack and peel is what was used on the wools. Tack and peel is a thing that you affix to one side of your acrylic block, and it allows for the temporary mounting of your unmounted stamps. Just bare rubber. Okay, I don't know if you can see this material on here. Yeah, I cut it flush with the acrylic block. Alright, so for this one, we'll use the Versafine as well. just kind of give this a bit. I inked up that whole thing, but I'm barely using anything right here. It's just kind of, I don't know, it's kind of holding the composition a little bit more on the top, doing it this way. I kind of went down a little bit lower, had an angle that way here, and then over here I'll kind of angle it this way. Okay. Okay, so let's get this out of glare there. Counterbend. Alright, so fun, easy scene. It was, I don't know, relatively quick. I can't remember if I stopped this video before, but it's at 38 minutes. Get that background down. I mean, it looks really dimensional, doesn't it? And it's through the variation of values in here and tones that I've kind of, you know, I don't know, splotchy applied, you know, ink to, like that. But you add a little bit more tone in there. I didn't need to add too much because the, you know, the Milky Way stamp is fairly solid, so it really fills in the area, but kind of giving it this, especially tones from, you know, around on the perimeter, really kind of focuses our attention in here. And these wools are just, they're dark enough to pretty much stamp over anything. I guess especially if you stamp it in Versafine. I was really surprised at just how much darker Versafine was than the Marvy black, which I thought was, you know, pretty close to 100% black, but Versafine is even more kind of striking as a, you know, a dark value. So, and then we have all of our little touches in here with our gel pens. You can kind of see it around in here a little bit more. Okay, there's the kind of the reflection. That's not wet in there. That's just that gel pen kind of glistening a touch, you know. I put it down on a lot of dots, and I got a little bolder, and I do these larger dots in there. But all those little things like that are really fun to do. Then we see down here in the clouds. Yeah, let's see, here we go. They're glowing a little bit. It's kind of that ink is drying, so it isn't quite as apparent as it was before. But anyways, it lends itself to kind of a nice, varied, and kind of a visually deep space scene. Largely silhouettes in the foreground, so these two areas right here, the leaves and the wools, really look like they're on the same kind of visual plane or something like that. In the background we have something, I don't know, out in infinity, you know, in terms of the distance between them. So not a lot of midground, unless you consider the maybe the clouds are a midground and the stars, you know, light years away or something like that, are the distant things. So I guess you can say it, you know, background, midground, foreground, or something like that. And it was a really fun scene to do, and I feel, you know, fairly dramatic in terms of the look. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the scene. Thanks for watching, and drop us a note in the comment section if you have any questions.